thought my story in the Philippines had ended. But one phone call, one trembling voice from thousands of miles away, pulled me back to the frozen streets of Russia. I promised myself I'd only stay for a while. I didn't know that leaving would test my heart, my love, and my very sense of home, and that the choice I would make next would change my life forever. If you haven't heard the first part of my story, my name is Alina. I'm a 32-year-old Russian woman from St. Petersburg. Last year, my life was a blur of cold mornings, silent metro rides, and a heart that felt empty. Everything changed when I traveled to the Philippines, to a small island called Palawan, just for a 2-week escape. But what I found there was far more than a holiday. I found Miguel, a local man with a smile warmer than the tropical sun, and a way of life so different from the rush and shadows of home. Those 2 weeks turned into months. I swam in turquoise waters, learned to cook adobo, laughed with the locals, and slowly, I fell in love. Not just with Miguel, but with myself again. But then came the call from my mother. Her voice was tired, her health was failing, and she needed me. I told Miguel I'd return soon. I boarded a plane back to Russia, not knowing that leaving would be harder than I could have imagined. The cold hit me before I even stepped outside Pulkovo Airport. That familiar bite of winter wind stung my cheeks as I pulled my scarf tighter. Snowflakes clung to my eyelashes, and the gray skyline of St. Petersburg loomed ahead. It was beautiful in its own severe way. But after months of sunlight, it felt like stepping into another lifetime. My mother was waiting in the arrivals hall. She looked smaller than I remembered, wrapped in layers, her eyes tired but bright when they met mine. "Alina, my girl," she said softly, pulling me into her arms. Her embrace was warm, but I could feel how thin she'd become. The days in Russia were filled with doctor visits, pharmacy runs, and hours of sitting at her kitchen table, listening to the steady tick of the old wall clock. I cooked her soup, changed her bed sheets, and made sure she took her medicine. At night, when she was asleep, I would sit by the window, my phone in my hand, staring at Miguel's last message. "Come back soon. The sea is waiting." We spoke often, but the distance between us wasn't just measured in miles. The time zones were cruel. When I woke up, he was going to sleep. When I finished cooking dinner, he was already out on the water, fishing with his friends. Still, every message, every call kept the thread between us alive. Winter in St. Petersburg has a way of seeping into your bones. The streets were white and silent, the sun a pale ghost that barely rose above the horizon. I tried to settle back into my old routines, but everything felt heavier. The cafes I used to love were too quiet. My friends' conversations seemed shallow, and whenever I closed my eyes, I saw Miguel smile, the way the sunset lit the water behind him. My mother noticed my restlessness. One evening, as we drank tea by the window, she said, "Your heart is still there, isn't it? In the islands." I hesitated. "I can't just leave you, Mama." She reached across the table and took my hand. "I raised you to follow your heart. But don't forget, I'm strong, even if I'm old." She smiled faintly. "And I have my friends, my neighbors. You have your life." It wasn't that simple. Leaving again would feel like abandoning her, but staying felt like abandoning myself. To bridge the distance, Miguel and I began sending letters. Not just texts or calls, real letters. Each envelope carried the scent of the sea and the warmth of his words. He sent photos of the beach, of the little garden we'd planted together, of the cat that had decided his porch was home. I sent him pressed flowers from my mother's windowsill, little sketches of St. Petersburg's frozen canals, and stories about my childhood. In my mind, I was building a bridge between our two worlds, plank by plank. But there were days when his letters didn't come, when the silence felt louder than the winter wind. I told myself it was just the mail, just the weather. Still, doubt crept in. Was he still waiting? In early March, as the snow began to melt, Miguel called me late one night. His voice was soft but excited. "Alina, the town is having the festival again next month. Remember last year? The dancing, the food, the lanterns. I want you to see it again. Please, come back." I felt my heart race. I had been waiting for those words, but they terrified me. Could I leave my mother now? Could I risk stepping back into a life that might be too good to last? When I told my mother, She simply nodded. "Go," she said. "If you wait until the perfect time, you'll wait forever." For 2 weeks, I wrestled with the choice. My friends said I was crazy to consider leaving again. My own mind told me it was selfish. But every time I thought about staying, my chest felt heavy. And every time I thought about going, I felt alive. I bought the ticket on a rainy Thursday afternoon. The moment the confirmation email hit my inbox, I felt the weight in my chest lift. Flying back to the Philippines felt different this time. The first time had been an escape. This time was a return. I stared out the airplane window as the endless white of Russia gave way to the deep blue of the Pacific. My palms were sweaty, my heart pounding. Would Miguel be there at the airport? Would he still feel the same? As I stepped into the warm air of Puerto Princesa, I was hit with the scent of salt and flowers. My skin drank in the heat. And then, there he was. Miguel standing by the exit, holding a small bouquet of frangipani. His smile was exactly as I remembered. I dropped my bag and ran to him. The moment his arms closed around me, every mile, every day of waiting, dissolved. "Welcome home," he whispered. The weeks after my return were a blur of joy. We swam in the sea, cooked meals together, and took long walks through the market. The festival was just as magical as I remembered. Music filling the air, lanterns glowing like stars. One night, as we sat on the beach, watching the moon rise, Miguel took my hand. "You came back," he said softly. "That's all I ever wanted." I rested my head on his shoulder. "I'm not leaving again," I said. And for the first time in months, I knew it was true. It's been 6 months since I came back to the Philippines. Sometimes, I still wake up expecting to see the soft white glow of snow outside my window, to feel the bite of Russian winter on my cheeks. But when I open my eyes, it's sunlight that greets me, filtering through the bamboo slats of our little home in Palawan. The air smells of salt and mangoes, and the ocean is just a few steps away. Life here is slower. Miguel and I start our mornings with coffee on the porch, watching fishermen bring in their catch. I've learned their names, their stories, even a few words in their dialect. I help the women in the village with market days, carrying baskets of fish and fruit, and they've started calling me Ate Lena, Big Sister Lena. It's funny, in Russia I was always Elena the Traveler, the woman who never stayed in one place. Here, I'm simply part of something. Miguel still teases me about my first week here, when I couldn't stand the heat. Now I walk barefoot on the sand without flinching, my skin bronzed from the sun. I've learned to cook adobo the way his grandmother did, to plant sweet potatoes in the garden behind our house, and to gut a fish without looking like I'm about to faint. Some days, I write in my journal, the same one I carried with me through airports and lonely nights. I write about the laughter of children chasing kites, the sound of waves lulling me to sleep, the way Miguel's hand always finds mine when we walk. I write about peace, something I never thought I'd feel again after the war. Today marks 1 year since I came back. Miguel remembered, of course. He woke me before sunrise and led me to the cliff overlooking the sea. The sky was painted in gold and pink, the ocean calm as glass. We sat there, wrapped in a blanket, sipping coffee from a shared mug. "I still remember the first time I saw you here," he said, his voice low. "I thought you were just passing through. I never thought you'd stay." I laughed. "Neither did I." He looked at me, and there was that same spark in his eyes, the one that first made me feel like I was home. "You know," he said, "we should plant more trees, build a bigger porch, maybe make room for a family someday." My heart swelled. I didn't need a ring or grand declarations. Those words were enough. We spent the rest of the day celebrating in the village. There was music, grilled fish, and dancing under strings of lanterns. An old fisherman told me, "You belong here now, Elena." And for the first time in my life, I believed it completely. That night, as Miguel and I stood on the beach watching fireworks bloom in the dark, I thought about everything it took to get here. The fear, the uncertainty, the distance. And I knew, without a shadow of doubt, that I was exactly where I was meant to be. I came to the Philippines to escape the echoes of war. I stayed because I found something far more powerful than fear. I found love, belonging, and a future worth holding on to. And if you've followed my journey this far, I want to say thank you. Your support, your time, it means more than you know. And if you believe in second chances, in finding home in the most unexpected places, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story. Because maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs to hear that it's never too late to start again.